Alright, I'm here to talk about the Royal Arch of Freemasonry, the astronomy of it, and not many people know that the Royal Arch of Freemasonry involves the zodiac constellations to the south. There are Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries. I'm here like to talk about the first part here, part one. I would just like to talk about these constellations and some maybe down below here along the horizon that might have relationships with these constellations. In part two, I'd like to talk about some other connections inside the Royal Arch, and that'll be next. Okay, let's talk about Freemasonry. Freemasonry, the first three operative degrees in the Blue Lodge are where you reach the Master Mason in the third degree. At that point, you can go further. You don't have to go further, but you can go further into the Scottish Rite. And then there's the York Rite, two separate, different parts of Freemasonry. They are different. The Scottish Rite is the part of Freemasonry where we see the 33 degrees, where you can get a 33 degree, up to 33 degrees. The 13th degree in the Scottish Rite is the Royal Arch. Now it has a couple of different names. It has the Royal Arch of Enoch, the Knights of the Ninth Arch, and the Royal Arch of Solomon. Okay, this is typically on the Scottish Rite is a golden triangle or a delta with two men showing two men lowering a third in an subterranean vault, getting the Ark of the Covenant. So it does have to do with the Ark of the Covenant, the Royal Arch. So it is associated with the Royal Arch of Freemasonry. On the York side, it's quite different, which I don't really want to get into, but it is different how the hierarchy is set up, and there are positions. It's more military, like the way they have their order. But the Scottish Rite is really what I want to focus on here. So it does have to do with the Ark of the Covenant and subterranean vaults and retrieving the Ark from a subterranean vault. That's what I want to make clear. Okay? Let's talk about some of these constellations in the Royal Arch and provide you with some mythology and connections to Freemasonry. Also, I'd like to make some connections to the Rosicrucian and their beliefs that are tied up in here. The actual Freemasonry does have Rosicrucian ties. They are apparent in the Scottish Rite from degree 15 to 18. And it's the Knights of the Rosy Cross that are associated with Rosicrucianism inside Freemasonry. Okay, let's talk about Leo. That's the top. Now, the Royal Arch has three pillars, and there are pictures and symbolism in Freemasonry showing the three pillars. And also it does have to do with Jacob's Ladder, which I'll talk about later. But let's talk about Leo. He is the summer solstice. The sun at that time was in Leo back BC times. It is the summer solstice. It is the pillar of strength. Okay, so that would be the top. This is the most important pillar of the Royal Arch, is the strength that holds all that arch together. Okay, according to Brown, this visible connection between the constellation Leo and the return of the sun to his place of power and glory at the summit of the arch of the heaven was the principal reason why the constellation was held in such high esteem and reverence by the ancients. The astrologers distinguished Leo as the sole house of the sun, and taught that the world was created when the sun was in this sign. Regulus here is one of the royal stars. It is one of the royal stars right here. It's called the Heart of the Lion, okay, or the Red Flame. It's one of the brightest stars in the sky. Some believe that the Sphinx actually in Egypt represents the constellation Leo. Okay, and Leo is also the tribe of Judah, of the 12 tribes of Israel, represented Judah's tribe. Okay, tribe of Judah. Let's talk about Libra now, please. There we go. Libra, the scales. That is the pillar of wisdom, and represents the autumn equinox. Libra is also the house of Venus. Many courthouses, you can see the scales of justice. They're called, with Virgo, there's a connection with Virgo and Libra, where Virgo is holding out her hand and have the scales of justice there. Many courthouses and many lawyer firms have the scales as a symbol of justice. Their connection to Freemasonry, too, not only is it the pillar of wisdom, but also in Freemasonry could associate it with the Tower of Babel. Back in ancient times, these stars here formed a large tower that they referred to as the Tower of Babel in Babylonian times. And King Nimrod is where the Freemasonry actually credits its beginnings at that time. Many researchers believe that the strong connection to the neighboring Virgo and Libra is the courthouses again, and justice. There's also a lost constellation in here that was supposed to represent a mound, okay, or an altar of some kind, a mound or an altar that also been represented possibly as a lamp or a flame. So it's a round mound or altar entwined with serpents back in the day, was right here. But it's lost right in here. So, but there is an altar down here. Okay, it's Era of the altar. So possibly, some people think this is the altar of Noah after the Great Flood, where he erected an altar. Lupus and Centaurus right here. Some believe that this is showing a sacrifice, being so close to the altar. So, this could be a sacrifice with the altar so close by. Here we got the square, Norma, and Circinius is the compass. And you also have a triangle here. These are obviously Freemasonry symbols, the square and the compass. So they are visible below the horizon in the Royal Arch right here. Okay. Rosicrucian theme. Some people think this is the Rosy Cross. There'd be a rose right in the middle there. This is Musca, the fly. It's also been called the bee. If you're familiar in the Rosicrucian symbolism of the rose and the bee, that could be a connection right here between those two. Okay, let's talk about Aries quickly. Aries is a very big constellation. It's been called the Lamb of God due to its main star, Hamel here. Hamel means sheep or lamb. Okay. In Egypt, the ram was revered as the god Amen or Aman. Aman was depicted as having a ram's head. As we know that Egyptians, many like Horus and them, they had different animal heads. Well, his was the ram's head. One of the great temples in Egypt, honoring the sun, had a long avenue lined with many ram-headed sphinxes. So Aries was known then, back in Egyptian times. The Greek mythology is associated with the golden fleece. The ram Aries supposedly rescued 2 children from their stepmother, who was very mean, and Aries rescued them and brought them to a nearby island, and they sacrificed the ram in his honor and placed the fleece in a temple. It's known as the Golden Fleece. And later Jason and the Argonauts, of course, their expedition to get the Golden Fleece is famous and associated with the constellation Argos over here in the middle, directly below Leo. Okay, so those two are connected over here. Libra is actually also connected to the ship with Noah. Some people believe that this is Noah's ship. Okay, with the Great Flood. So Libra and Aries both connect somehow to this ship, directly in the middle of the Royal Arch, with Leo above. So there's almost 4 points here with Argos, Libra, Leo, and Aries. So there is some kind of weird connection there too. Sir Isaac Newton, the great Sir Isaac Newton, also was a firm believer that Aries was, and the Golden Fleece was connected to the ship of Jason and the Argonauts, which is Argos. Let's talk about Taurus. Taurus is a very, very old constellation, very popular amongst the ancients. The Apis bull of Egypt was revered as Osiris, the bull god, or the god of the Nile. Rosicrucian and Freemasons both associate Osiris, Iris, and Horus to Taurus. The right triangle also in Rosicrucianism is they depict as Osiris, Isis, and Horus. And the angles, the right angles, 9-degree angles, right here, and 53 and I think 28 to make 180. Those angles and the right triangle are very important in both. Okay, the word bull means coming or who cometh, and then the alpha star is Aldebaran, and then one of the brightest stars in the sky, and that is also called leader. They used Aldebaran for navigation on the seas quite a bit. This is the Pleiades. This is also called the Seven Sisters. Many cultures have honored the Pleiades in their culture. This is Hades, another V-like shape of stars that's very popular. So it's called Hades. Greek mythology it's a great story of Zeus and how he kidnapped Europa, a girl playing on the beach, and he disguised himself as a white bull, and he had the actual very handsome bull. The hide was white as fresh snow, as white as fresh snow, and his horns shone like polished metal. Of course, Europa saw this, and she got on his back, and the bull took off into the sea and swam to the island Crete, where Zeus donned her with all kinds of presents, one including a dog. And that's where the Canis Major comes in, Sirius. Okay? This was a gift given to Europa by Zeus when they hit Crete. Okay, and landed on Crete. Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Freemasonry, the Masonic Tau cross, is not only a symbol of the Royal Arch, but is also a symbol of the vernal equinox and immortality. Tau is derived from the Egyptian root meaning bull or cow. And the banner of the Royal Arch, the ox, is present. And like I said, Aldebaran is one of the royal stars, 104. And I talked about the Pleiades and the Hades. Let's talk about Virgo over here. Virgo. Now, this is also a very, very big constellation, old constellation. It's been associated with Isis, Eve, Mary, just to name a few. It's only one of 3 feminine or signs that are women. Virgo being one, Cassiopeia being the other, and Andromeda being the other. So Virgo is a very big constellation. And Spica is the alpha star here. And you see that Virgo is holding some believe it's a shuck of corn, wheat, or a sprig of acacia. That's in Freemasonry. Acacia is popular in Freemasonry. They used it's a symbol of immortality among Masons. And it's used to honor a brother who has died. Okay, the Virgo has also been associated with Diana, Minerva, Athena, and occasionally Urania, who was the muse of astronomy. Okay, and there's also a tie between Eve, Isis, and Mary as the three feminine aspects of time. Virgo symbolizes the depths, darkness, and quiet and warmth. It is in the valley of the deep experience within secrets are discovered and eventually brought to light. It is a place of slow, gentle, and yet powerful crisis and periodic developments taking place in the dark and yet leading to light. Virgo is present in the blinded stage found in Masonic rituals and ever precedes the gift of light. Virgo stands for the womb of time wherein God's plan is slowly matured, brought into manifestation at the end of the appointed time. So Virgo is a big constellation. Let's go Cancer the Crab. This is an interesting constellation. It's been called not only a crab, but it's been called a crayfish. It's been called, the Egyptians called it the scarab or beetle. The Babylonians call it a tortoise. So this is one of the constellations that's actually changed over time. And believe it or not, it's also been referred to as two donkeys or two asses. And there is actually some mythology associated with that. So the crab mythology has to do with back to Hercules and his 12 labors, where he Hera sent a crab while he was fighting the serpent Hydra. Okay, this is his third labor. Hercules was defeating Hydra, and the crab was also present. Hera sent the crab to nip at Hercules' ankles while he was fighting Hydra, the nine-headed serpent, in a swamp, which I'll talk about in the second part. So Hercules took care of the crab. Hera, of course, threw it into the sky to honor its following through on her directive, and honored the crab by throwing it into the stars. The stories of the two donkeys or asses have to do with Bacchus, the god of grape harvest, winemaking, wine, ritual madness, fertility, theater, and religious ecstasy. There's one story where he was traveling and he came upon a large swamp. He grabbed two of the donkeys nearby that carried him over through the swamp to get to the other side, and he honored them by throwing them into the stars and as two donkeys. The other legend that has to do with is the fight between the gods and the giants. Bacchus and another fellow, a companion of his, a tutor, in the battle, were riding two donkeys, and their loud braying frightened the giants that helped them win the battles. Also in Cancer, there's a very big star cluster that's visible. Actually, today that we know, there's 360 stars in this one star cluster in Cancer. Okay, but it was naked to the visible eye, and Galileo has seen it. Not that many stars, but he knew there was not just one star, there was many stars. Persepi is the name of the star cluster, and it's also been called the manger. Of course, synonymous with Christ being born in a manger, and it was the manger that he was actually born in that they represented that as. Also, it's been this star cluster has been represented or called St. John the Evangelist. Masons have 2 days they celebrate St. John's Day. On June 24th, they honor St. John the Baptist, and December 27th, St. John the Evangelist. So December 27th would be St. John the Evangelist Day. Like I said, Galileo saw the star cluster, and they called it a beehive. That's what they called it, and many of the English astronomers also referred to it as the beehive. Okay, another bee reference to Masonic or Rosicrucian with the beehive or bees. One Masonic author said the beehive is a triple emblem. The hive proper denotes man's physical body. The honeycomb signifies that which is interior to the physical and astral body, and the honey is symbolic of the spiritual body, which is composed of the choicest nectars. Dr. David Harrison, another Mason, states the symbol is a very ancient one representing the working lodge. 7 bees are usually seen flying around the hive, 7 being the number to make a perfect lodge. Beehive was discovered actually in Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. During renovations, they found a beehive that was up in the attic part of the chapel. The masons dug it out. It was on purpose. They hollowed out by the masons for the purpose of a beehive. The bees entered through a hole in a decorative flower on one of the pinnacles. Actually, there was no way they wanted to get the honey out. They just left it there. There was no way to retrieve the honey, so they didn't use it for that purpose. Let's talk about Gemini. Lastly, I think, very important constellation, as we'll see in part 2. It's impossible to talk about Freemasonry without discussing the sign of Gemini. Very important in Freemasonry. It is a major symbol of duality, according to Etta Jackson. Gemini therefore governs all the pairs of opposites in the zodiac and also preserves the connection between them. Gemini is the doorway through which unity must be achieved. It's also Rosicrucian ties is the indicative of the old Hermetic saying, as above, so below, as below, so above. In Rosicrucianism, it's the symmetrical and harmonious relationship between the above and the below, and the large and the small, the microcosm represented by humankind, and the macrocosm, which is the universe that surrounds us. This is also evident in the symbolism shown in the twin pillars in Freemasonry as Jachin and Boaz. The pillars represent the duality of the sun and the moon, the day and the night, light and dark, hot and cold, etc. Gemini is constantly represents the Castor and Pollux, the 2 twins. Pollux was immortal, Zeus's son, with the queen's Sparta queen Leda. The mortal is Castor. He is the son of the king of Sparta. Okay, so one is immortal, Pollux, and the other one is mortal, Castor. They grew up together and were very close. Castor, the mortal twin, is a horseman and proficient in fencing. Actually, he was supposedly the person who taught Hercules how to fence. And Pollux was famed for his boxing skills. And one of the stories of when they were part of the expedition of getting the Golden Fleece, they were part of Jason and the Argonauts. These 2 were. And they traveled along and saved Jason and the crew on many occasions with their special skills. But when they were in where was it? Argonauts expedition with the Golden Fleece, Pollux boxing skills came in handy when the Amycus, the son of Poseidon, who ruled Asia Minor, refused to let the Argonauts leave until one of them fought him in a boxing match. Pollux accepted the challenge and easily won. Like I said, the twins saved the crew many times. They have been also known as the patron saints of sailors, and were said to have given the powers to rescue sailors who were shipwrecked by the sea god Poseidon himself, and who also gave them 2 white horses, which the twins often rode. That is the final of Freemasonry and Royal Arch. Part 2 will talk more about the interior constellations and any connections they have inside. Thank you.